So now let's get started again. Okay, so yes, we're going to identify a difference of squares. And like I said, some guys already have been trying it and you just love it because it's so simple and it's a very nice cut. So we're going to identify when we have a difference of squares, and then we're going to factor a difference of squares using the sum and difference formula, and that's the way you factor it. And actually, here's a little image of the difference of squares and the sum and difference formula. Some of you have seen that. So I wanted to add one thing to our important info to passing quarter three. Most of you guys, well, some of you guys, depends on if you go to Gateway. Even Kenny, he usually goes to Central, and he is now available for tutoring on Tuesdays and Fridays at Central, and he usually comes in around 10 or 11. And he is wanting to tutor math students. So you guys, if you are there on Tuesday and Friday, because there's no math teacher there on Tuesday and Friday, Miss Joqua and I are not at Central on Tuesday or Friday. You can ask another teacher who he is if you don't know, and he, what if we did this? Oh, share your sorry you guys, I wasn't paying attention to your chat. Oh, hi Katie. Yeah, you can share. I can see you now. Oh, I see you. Yes. What are you doing? Or you're frozen yourself. That's very nice, Kitty. But anyway, sorry, moving ahead. Click webcam. Yes. You guys, we can all be in the webcam together if you want. Just don't do anything strange. So anyway, just wanted to let you know about the tutoring. And then again, you guys are doing a good job of going back and becoming proficient on the material when you are unsatisfactory the first time. And that's no big deal. That's totally expected. And as long as you go back, that's how you learn. So you guys are doing a good job. All right, so we're going to get started. So here's what I'm going to have you guys do. You're going to, once again, we'll just go ahead and choose a notepad and write your name, and that way you can write some math out later. Not yet, because we're going to, well, some of you are going to write this, and some of you are going to talk. So you guys write your name, very nice. And then, yo, Katie, yes. Katie, you have to play your webcam so then I can actually see you in action. Okay, so let me just ask individually first. So I know Aaliyah. Oh no, you don't have your microphone. See, Aaliyah, you need your microphone. Okay, let me just ask Brianna, since you have the best microphone, I think. So Brianna, what do you think, and like I said, it's okay if you don't know, but what do you think a perfect square means? You're good. Okay, that's really good. That is very good. So a perfect square is a number that can be multiplied by itself to come up with another number, basically, is what you're saying. Or it's a number that you can take the square root of and get a whole number. Yes, very good, very good. Okay, so the rest of you guys, so you get off the hook on this one. I didn't make you talk, and now you don't have to write in a notepad yet. You don't have to yet. Okay, so let's kind of take that a little bit farther. I'm going to show you guys something else. So first what I'm going to do is I'm going to distribute. So I'm just going to do this first one, and you guys all know how to distribute. You better. Those will be very mad at you from last quarter. So if we have this, these are binomials, right? We have 1 and 2. And if you'll notice that they are the same, you have an x and a 2 and an x and a 2. The only thing that's different is one has a minus sign and one has a plus sign. So let's distribute. And remember that when we distribute, we just take the first term and multiply it by each of the second terms, or by each of the terms in the second binomial. And then we take the second term and we multiply it by each of the terms in the second binomial. So that's how we distribute. So let's do that. So we'll do x times x and we get x squared. And then we would do x times 2 and we would get positive 2x. Now let's move on to the negative 2. So negative 2 times x is negative 2x. And then negative 2 times positive 2 is negative 4. So I want you guys to watch this. This is very cool. Look, what happens to the positive 2x and the minus 2x? What happens to those? So, Emma, what happens to those? Very good, Emma, very good. They cancel out. They go away. Positive and minus, they go away. So awesome. So all we have left is just x squared minus 4. Okay, so that's our first one. So why don't you guys, you can do them in your note pods actually, distribute this one and tell me what you get. So if you want to do the work in your note pods, you can, or on a piece of paper, but distribute that second set and see what you get. Very good, Donovan. They do cancel each other out on that one. I see you're chatting. I should move my other computer closer so that I can see at the same time. And I should get some power going here. Okay. All right, very good. So Brianna, you're doing yours in your notepad. Awesome. All right, Emma and Katie and Donovan and Aaliyah. I'm assuming you guys are doing it on a piece of paper. Are you guys doing it on paper? Okay, you guys are doing it there. Okay. Emma, your name is 1 with your equations. Very good, very good. Alright. And if you guys already know the answer because you already know the pattern, you can write it. So that's what Donovan is going for. He's going for the big answer at the end. And you know what? I'm thinking that you're seeing a pattern. Otherwise you wouldn't have put that. Right. Looks like Emma is almost done. And it looks like Brianna is done. Emma is done. Donovan is done. Leah, are you there? All right, so Katie's almost. So Leah, how are you doing over there? Do you have any questions about that? All right, Aaliyah, we're definitely going to have to get you hooked up with the microphone. Oh, you are all right. Very good, very good. Just, oh, you're just figuring it out. Okay. All right, well, are you close, Aaliyah? Are you close? It looks like we have, go ahead, okay. All right, I'm gonna go ahead. So it looks like some of you guys made some adjustments since we talked. But what I'm seeing from most of you guys is x squared minus 25. And Donovan, I see how you changed yours. And you probably were thinking that if you look at the first one, the 2 plus 2 is 4. And you might have been thinking that. Am I right? Am I right? Oh, you have to leave. A reading buddy. Oh, that's actually a good thing though, Emma. That's good. So yeah, that's totally fine. We should be done. This won't take very long, actually. So anyway, yeah, Donovan, so that's probably what you were thinking, but then you kind of started noticing maybe it was actually 2 times 2 to give you 4. So it looks like all of you guys have x squared minus 25, and you guys are exactly right. So if you multiply all this out, you end up with that x squared minus 5x plus 5x, and remember those are going to cancel out, and the negative 5 times positive 5 is negative 25. So, once again, the negative 5 and the positive 5, that just goes away. And what you're left with is x squared minus 25. So it looks like Donovan saw the pattern. How about the rest of you guys? Are you guys seeing the pattern? Yes. Emma's yes. Brianna, yes. Celia, yes. Uh-oh. Katie, something weird happened with yours. I don't know why. Oh, there we go. Oh, looks like maybe Brianna got ejected. Okay, so yeah, you guys, so the pattern is anytime you have a sum, so we have x plus 5 and a difference, x minus 5, it factors into the first term squared minus the second term squared. So one thing that's kind of important that I want to point out to you guys for this lesson is that it's always minus, right? Here's a minus, here's a minus. So it's never going to come out plus, it's always going to come out minus. And that's going to be really important because what we're going to start with for this lesson is actually this stuff down here, right down here at the bottom. We're going to be starting with the distributed form and we are going to factor it back out. Okay, so let's look at how we do that. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to factor this. So you guys were looking at that pattern. So you guys know that since this is a perfect square and this is a perfect square, now let's actually go back because I skipped that. Notice that 4 is a perfect square. Notice that x squared is a perfect square. Same thing with over here, x squared is a perfect square and so is 25. And the way that you know that something is a perfect square, just like we talked about in the very beginning, is that if you can take the square root of it and have it come out a whole number, you know it's a perfect square. So let's go back to here. So let's try to take the square root. So what I always do is I go, okay, well, I'm going to take the square root of the first term. And that's going to give me x. So one trick, you guys, anytime you have a variable that's raised to a power, you just cut that power in half, and that's the square root of it. So now I'm going to take the square root of 9. And I can. The square root of 9 is 3. So just like we said, if you can take the square root of the first term, and you can take the square root of the second term and get a whole number, that's the key, it has to be a whole number, then you have a sum and difference. So I can rewrite this just the way I did. Let me go back once more, you guys. Just the way I did here, I can take x minus 4 and expand it into its square roots, x minus 2, x plus 2. So if I come down here, I can take this and write this as x minus 3, x plus 3. And that's how you can factor that. Now, if you forget all this, you can always go back to the old way that you're used to doing, you know, where you put in a middle term and you factor by grouping. So your middle term would be 0x, and then you'd have 0x plus 0x. That's just a lot of effort and a lot of work when we have these awesome shortcuts. So I'm going to do one more for you guys, and then I'm going to see if you guys can do it. So what I'm going to do is, again, take the square root of my first term, 4x to the 6th. Well, the square root of 4 is 2, and the square root of x to the 6th, I'm going to cut the 6 in half, so that becomes x to the 3rd. So that's the square root of my first term. Then I can take the square root of my second term, which is 81 x squared y to the 4th. The square root of 81 is just 9. The square root of x squared is x, and the square root of y to the 4th is y to the 2nd. So I just cut that exponent in half. So now I can write it as a sum and difference. So I get 2x to the 3rd plus 9xy squared, and now I'm going to do my difference. So 2x to the 3rd minus 9x y squared. So it's a very quick and easy way to factor into our two factors. So I gave you kind of a complicated one here so you can see that as long as they're perfect squares, you can factor it. All right, I'm going to have you guys factor x squared minus 36 on your own really quick in your notepad. So just use your sum and difference and type in what that would be. Okay, good, Bree, you're working, awesome. So you guys don't need to do any work on a piece of paper because we're just using that shortcut. So all you have to do is type it in. Donovan, how are you doing? Alright, looks good. Aaliyah, how about you? Up there. In notes, number 9, all by yourself up there. Oh, you're working? That's good. Good, you were starting. So you guys remember, just sum and difference. All you have to do is take the square root of the first term and the square root of the second and write your sum and difference. So I know I can see that a couple of people are already pretty much done. Let me actually go over, because I can't scroll down over here. Oops. Okay. Sorry, you guys. Made your screen go away for a second. Donovan. Okay, yeah. And, you know, part of it too, Donovan, is once you get through that first week, because that first week is all in factoring, then the factoring in and of itself will make a little bit of sense. So see how you feel, but if you can, if you're starting to feel better, try to go into that first week and do the greatest common factor, and then you're also going to be factoring some quadratics, and so then you'll look at this and it'll make a little more sense too. All right, so Katie, it looks like you're doing the bottom one. Very good. All right, so Leah's still working. Are you working on the first one or the second one? So you guys go ahead and try the second one as well. If you can. So, all right, very good. Katie's on track. Aaliyah, go ahead and do the second one. This is our last one. Oh, you're doing it today, Donovan? That's good. Very good. And if you need to, and you guys, that goes for anybody, if you're working on something and you're really lost and confused, you know, just send me a message, and if my message to you doesn't help, I can do a little quick mini screencast showing you how to do the first problem in your practice and then send it to you, you know, and they're only a couple minutes, and that can really help a lot. So just know that that option is available for you. You just have to ask me and I'll do that for you guys. Also, remember that we can do a webinar together and we can share screens like a one-on-one if you guys need to do that. But like I said, definitely I've done a few little mini screencasts recently, and it seems to have helped a lot for some people. So just remember that's an option for you guys. All right, so Aaliyah, looks like you're done, and I know you did the second one, and I thought I saw you do the first one. And then Katie is done, and so it looks like you guys are pretty much done. So let's go through it. So you guys, sum and difference. So if I'm doing my sum and difference, I know that my answer is always going to have a plus, and it's always going to have a minus. And what's going to go on the first spot is always going to be the square root of my first term. So that's x. So I'm going to have an x and an x. And what's going to go on the second spot is always going to be the square root of my second term, which is 6. So that's going to be 6 and 6. And you guys are all very good with that. Excellent. Okay, so last one. So once again, if I have two perfect squares and it's a difference, right? If this was 9x squared plus 100, I couldn't do it. But since it's 9x squared minus 100, and both 9x squared and 100 are perfect squares, I can make this work. So I'm going to have a sum and difference. So I'm going to make my two parentheses with my sum and my difference. I'll go ahead and take the square root of the first term, which would be 3x. Square root of 9 is 3. Square root of x squared is just x. And the square root of my last term, the square root of 100 is 10. So I have 10. All right. Oh, yes, Emma, you will still get credit. You can just do the discussion when you get home. And the discussion, and that's just what I was about to end with, is just discussing what this is and what you learned and how to do it. And you'll see when you get there because I think the question's in the discussion. So yeah, Emma, that's fine. Just do it when you get home. And then just don't forget to respond to a couple other people's posts. You're usually really good about that. But I was going to remind everyone today too. So bye, Emma. All right, you guys. So that concludes sum and difference. So if we go back to our first slide just to kind of wrap it up, now this might make a little more sense because A is a perfect square, or A squared is I should say, and B squared is a perfect square. So you can break it apart into its sum and difference. Okay. So you guys, any questions from anybody? Any questions? And just so you guys know, this is really just a supplement to, okay, Leah, that's good, to your lesson from yesterday. So if you watched the first lesson, no, it's not the first lesson, it's the second lesson, I think. Sorry, you guys. So when you watch your second lesson, you're going to see this again much more clear because it's laid out just for that. So by then having two shots at looking at this, it should be pretty easy for you guys if you haven't already gotten to it. So to have your ticket out, go into the discussion in Schoology. So let me just show you guys. I just want to make sure that everybody's getting their full points. And so, hang on. I just want to make sure everybody's doing it correctly because sometimes it doesn't always happen. Okay, so for this webinar, it says this webinar discusses the factoring shortcut, difference of squares. Explain what this means and how it works. So you want to explain it, and it says use PEA. So you should be looking at PEA in your English classes, but that's, you know, where you list your point, you give some evidence to support it, and then you just kind of analyze it in the end. It doesn't have to be very long. It's just kind of a way to organize. But then really important, it says, and respond to two other people's posts. So you can't earn a proficient without responding to two other posts. And that's what we're trying to do as a school. So anytime there's a discussion, you always have to go back and respond to two other people's posts. And if you look up here, it says you must post two meaningful responses on another person's post. So if you say, I agree, how did you get, could you explain a little more? Those aren't exactly meaningful. You can start like that. But if, for example, if you agree, explain with some detail why you agree. You know, I agree with you because blah, blah, blah. If you have a question, then explain what specifically causes you to question. So if you're not sure what they're doing, you know, don't just say, hey, I'm really lost, I don't know what you're talking about. Just say, well, I don't really understand when you say this, you know. So try to make it a little bit more meaningful instead of just, I agree or I understand, something like that. But anyway, I think that's it, you guys. So anybody have anything for me at all?